Now, over a 20-year span, projecting out with all of the nuances of projecting, we project 3,700 and I believe 72 jobs. We project over $760 million in income revenue. We project over $1.6 billion in overall revenue. And we finally project $79 million in state and local taxes from the development and the coherent development of the Oakland port, the city and the port side of the Army base, with a big idea going forward that will have enormous impact on the economics of Oakland, the economics of the region, the economics of the state, and the economics of the nation. Oakland is poised to become a major, major player going forward in trade and logistics around the world. Our competitors probably at the end of the day will be Mexico and the Panama Canal, but if we're smart, we're thoughtful, we're efficient, we're effective, and we know how to carve out the population, the customers that we want, Oakland will be a thriving place with significant opportunities for people. Now, let me finally come to, well, not finally, let me come to revenues. Many of you recall when I first took office and I looked at this multi-million-dollar budget, I said, yes, here are all these dollars to plan the great revolution for the change of Oakland going forward. By the time we funded police, fire, Measure Y, Measure Q, this, that, and the other, I ended up with $2 million to commit this great revolution. Now, think about it. That was $140 million worth of budget cuts ago. That's where we are, folks. We, from that time when I said we have $2 million, we have cut $140 million from our budget. We're required to bring in a balanced budget. There's still millions of dollars out there as our economy continues to quake, our state economy continues to quake. We're going to have to bite that bullet as well. And in this community, and many of you in this room will have to make a decision about whether or not we will be able to maintain the integrity of essential services. Because once you take police off the table, fire off the table, Measure Y off the table, Measure K, Kids First, off the table, economically, and trust me, on a personal basis, I'm there. I got it. I understand that. And you read about it all the time. My wife and I are dealing with it. So this is not an abstract idea here. I'm with you. I understand it. But the reality that we have to deal with is, what kind of city do we want going forward? What kind of services do we want going forward? And are we prepared to pay for them? Now, interesting thing, sidebar. You remember in the last election, we put Measure NN on the ballot to fill out our police department with all the necessary investigations and everything. Now, because we tend to live in an anti-tax world, we've created a new dialogue in the context of democracy. It's called supermajorities, which is another way of saying you're never going to get it, right? So 67%, but 55% of the voters voted for it. But this 67 is amazing. Now, it's interesting that over the 3 years of the taxes, the very highest tax rate, listen to me, the highest tax rate in the third year was going to cost an alarming amount of 35 cents a day. 35 cents a day. Now, our local newspaper editorialized against 35 cents a day when it was charging you 50 cents a day to read the newspaper. I fail to understand that logic. Now, check this out. When the newspaper found itself in its own economic difficulty in the backdrop, against the backdrop of this economic downturn, they levied an additional 25 cents. And I'm saying we could call that levying a new tax, because the paper now costs you 75 cents. So they levied 25 cents on top of the 50 cents, and then had you read an editorial saying public safety is not important enough for you to spend 35 cents a day, and that was only part of the population. Help me understand the logic of this. You in this room have to stand up as community and say, this is our city, and that we want to have services that speak to the quality of life of our community, and we're prepared to address contradiction and hypocrisy and absurdity wherever it is confronted. And you need to deal with that, okay? So we're going to have that conversation. But I opine